For many people, forestry is an investment. In order to manage that investment well, obviously interventions are needed. Some of those cost money, but ultimately, if they're planned well and appropriate, then what they're doing is they're adding value to that forest investment. So optimization is all around, is all about that. Is when is it important to save money, but also when is it important to save money to then ensure that the investment is gaining its full value and value isn't being lost.
By about year 10 in a forest, the forest owner should be engaging with a professional forester to do a management plan for their forest. So to envisage how many tinning rotations or how many tinnings are received, so whether it's going to get 2 tinnings, 3 tinnings before it may go to clear fell. And they'll also advise you whether you need a tree felling license and whether you may be acceptable to get a forest road and that. So most forest owners, if they've received grant aid or even if it's older forests and that kind of stuff, if you haven't received grant aid for a forest road, you may be eligible to get that.
Having a forest road on your site opens up the site to mobilisation of the roundwood or the raw material coming from the site. It also gives you access for equipment and forestry vehicles on site. It also enhances the biodiversity aspect of the site as you have open space and increased light levels. As regards to forest roads, they are grant aided.
It's 25 linear metres per hectare, and I think the cost at the moment is €40 per linear metre to cover the cost of forest roading. When you get the tree felling licence, I'd advise most landowners to get a tree felling licence after about 12 years. What I would say is to engage a forester or a forestry company or a producer group so that they'll make the application on your behalf, in that they have the expertise in making tree felling licence application. They can be quite complicated. There is a need for a harvest plan so that the forester will work out extraction routes where fuel and different chemicals like urea and stuff will be stored on site, so that they're far away from any source of water and that kind of stuff, that they have the different preventative kind of spillage kits, this, that, the other thing. So a professional forester will do all this for you.
When is the right time to thin, really and truly, is when you walk into a forest and there's no vegetation on the ground. Because at that stage the canopy would have closed and closed and closed and closed. And next thing, there is nothing on the ground. Because you need certain things for plants to grow, and one of those is light. So if the ground vegetation is starved of light, nothing grows, and that's a sure sign that something needs to happen. By and large in the conifers, you would say 12 metres in height, 8 to 12 metres in height, also with the hardwoods. But to me, observation, observe what's in the wood. And if the vegetation is dying on the ground, that's a sure sign that that crop needs thinning, and needs thinning fairly soon. So I would say from year 10 onwards, farmers, landowners should be thinking about thinning, because these things come in quite fast. If that's only just going in and cutting an inspection pat, so be it.
Lots of landowners come to us kind of going, oh, I think I might be approaching thinning, but I have no idea. So as a first step, we'd always encourage people to get to know their own forest.
The oxygen level is noticeably higher when you're working there, and you feel so much better while working there. And in the morning when I go out to the forest, I may feel tired and sometimes lethargic, but when I've been down there for about half an hour working with a chainsaw or a pruning saw or whatever, I feel much better. So I reckon it's a good place to live. Don't wait until you're actually finished and not able to do anything. Get out and experience what it's like to work in a forest.
There's no point in standing at the side of the next field, looking in and saying, there it is. You have to get in, basically. And the easiest way, instead of climbing in on your literally hands and knees, you need an inspection path.
If you cut an inspection path, you will be able to look at what's actually there inside in the wood. We can fly over and we can look at our orthophotos, and we can look at our crops from on heights, or look at drones. At the end of the day, there is no substitution from getting a little pruning saw and just going in and cutting a path.
We don't recommend chainsaws because it's really dangerous, because you're talking about bringing a chainsaw up kind of higher than your shoulder height, so that's extremely dangerous thing to do. A very light saw will do the same thing. So what you're really doing is just cutting branches to head height, basically left and right of 2 rows. Just giving yourself access, walkable access, just in between 2 rows of trees. There's no point in doing it when the branches are green and live still, but it's only until those lower branches start to die off, and it's an easier job to do, and you know you're heading towards thinning anyway, so it's worth doing.
And then from that patch you will actually see what's in the wood, and if something has gone wrong. Like if you have 2,500 trees per hectare, you ain't going to name them all out individually. So you need to kind of get a good view of what's there. Like in a 10-hectare block, then there's 25,000 trees. Like you need to see what quality those trees are. So it's very important to cut that path.
And that also gives an opportunity for you to invite forestry development officers to have a look, or a sawmiller, or a timber buyer, or a forester to have a look at your forest as well. So you're able to present it to them, and they know then what they're buying as well in relation to making a kind of a realistic deal with you. They're not putting a little bit of a risk in their calculations either, so they're seeing what they're going to be purchasing. We recommend that inspection paths are put in every 50 rows, so there's no point in absolutely going crisscross in your forest. You just want to be able to get in and have a good look, a representative sample of your forest. It's nice to kind of, from a map, maybe highlight where you might go in and do maybe 2 or 3, depending on the size of your forest, and then you'll have an idea of how your forest is doing.
And then from that you can actually go and look at your site, whether it's fit for thinning or not, and then put the planning in place for it. A felling licence, which is a necessity, pushing in roading issues, sourcing markets. And one of the great things about thinning is that it does bring forward the economic cycle of a forest. Thinning allows wood to form an awful lot quicker on trees, and that can't be understated, particularly from the financial side of it, but also from the environmental side of it, because if you open up a canopy, you allow light onto the ground, and then you allow vegetation in, and you allow grasses in, and it opens you up to more management techniques that can be done on the forests. For example, a lot of landowners might not want to clear fell a crop. Now, if it's thinned and well managed, they have that option. If they don't, well, it's really a clear fell option is what they're looking at. So I just feel with inside in thinning that you have an awful lot more options you can do with your wood, rather than just aim for a clear fell option and cut it out in 30 years time you have another crop. With something like thinning, you can adapt these other tools and options that can be used to allow the wood to grow, to be a biodiversity haven, to allow insects, animals, dead wood to form. All these things will happen in a forest that's working, provided it's managed and thinned.